All right, welcome to 2022. Same as 2021 when it comes to the Celtics, as I know they won their first game of the new year, but I didn't cover that one. They lose the first game I'm covering of the new year, this time to the San Antonio Spurs. Final score 97-99. And the headline here is same old, same old. Uh, the Celtics failed to perform in crunch time in the fourth quarter. Where have we heard that before? Yes, they did outscore the Spurs in the fourth. That doesn't happen that often. They did outscore them by 1 point, and that's just not enough to win the game. The Celtics not being able to crack 100 on its Spurs team that is now 15-22. They were 14-22 going into this game. Doesn't speak highly of their offense. Jason Tatum looked rusty coming off of his health and safety protocol absence. Jaylen Brown pretty much picked up where he left off against Orlando when he had a 50 piece the other night. He had 30 tonight, but really faltered down the stretch. And this team has just absolutely melted every time games get tight in the fourth quarter. They've got to be one of, if not the worst team I've ever seen in crunch time of games against good teams, against bad teams, against mediocre teams, against teams that have G League rosters, against teams that have All-Star rosters. It's all the same. The Celtics can't perform once the game is tight at the end of it. They go into panic mode, isolation ball, forget how to score, forget everything that they've done the prior 3.5 quarters, and just morph into a YMCA team, and not even like one of those good YMCA teams. I'm talking about the ones where, the kids are just learning to play basketball and are just throwing the ball out of bounds, dribbling it off their foot, dribbling with two hands. It's maddening. And like I said on a tweet, the Celtics are the basketball equivalent. I might pin this as my tweet because I think it's genius, patting myself in the back. The Celtics are the basketball equivalent of the person that derives sexual pleasure from getting kicked repeatedly in the balls. That's what they are. They love to torture themselves and torture their fans. It gives them sexual pleasure. That's my only theory as to why this continues to happen. They get genuine pleasure out of it, and it's so frustrating to watch. And you'll hear fans say, "Well, wow, they beat the Magic. Jaylen Brown had 50 points against the Magic the other night. How could you want to trade him?" Or, "Wow, look at them. They beat the Suns the other night." Their good wins are so much more few and far between than their bad losses. You have to judge a team by what happens more frequently. And what happens more frequently is they lose games like this. The Spurs aren't an awful team, but they're by no stretch a good team. And you're playing here in Boston, and you should be able to beat that team. You were healthy tonight. The excuses of, "Oh, these guys are in COVID protocol. The Celtics roster is, so dinged up." Everybody's roster is, first of all. Second of all, Tatum played tonight. Brown played tonight. Horford played tonight. Rob Williams played tonight. Marcus Smart played tonight. Josh Richardson played tonight. Grant Williams played tonight. Those are your main guys. So why did you lose to the Spurs? I'm just so sick of hearing this talk. Well, you can't break up the Jays. You can't trade Rob Williams. You can't trade Marcus Smart. You can't do this. You got to give this team time. You need to see what they are. We know what they are. Stop being stupid. Stop being obstinate. This team isn't going anywhere as currently constituted. There's no shot of it. This is what they are. They're bad losses, which happen every week, is what they are. It's not their good wins, which happens every other month. You can't judge a team by that. It's saying, "Oh, God, we're going to take this one game against the Phoenix Suns, and the Celtics played really well against it." That means they have the potential to be a really good team. No, it doesn't. That's not how the NBA works. That's why the season's 82 games long, is that you can't judge a team by one result. That's not going to give you the authentic picture of what they are. The authentic picture of what they are is what happens most often. What happens most often is the Celtics have bad losses, baffling losses where they melt in the fourth quarter, or they don't show up in the first quarter and they have to rally back only to fall short. That's what they are. That's what they are healthy. That's what they are injured. That's what they are on a Monday. That's what they are on a Sunday. That's what they are playing on Earth, Jupiter, in a different galaxy. That's just, they are what they are. We've seen more than enough to know this. And anybody who's trying to tell you otherwise is either getting paid by the team or delusional. I wish it wasn't true. I wish it wasn't true, but I can only say what my eyes tell me, and what my eyes tell me is it's pretty obvious This team does not have even close to what it takes to be a team to sell a fan base hope or to compete in the playoffs, let alone compete for a title. Let's see. We got some people in the comments here. Hitman Hudson, Leonard Kim. Hitman Hudson says, "Oops, they did it again." Yep, that's a good. Maybe that should be their theme song for the year. I didn't know you were a Spurs fan, Hitman. Congratulations on the win tonight. Not congratulations on what's not been a very fun season for you. But hey, you beat the Celtics twice, so tip of the cap to you. Leonard Kim, my buddy in chat, saying 100% saw this result coming. They never disappoint to disappoint. That's absolutely a fact. They have got to be the most disappointing team in the league. I don't know how you could argue with that. What else are you saying here, Hitman? Imagine your two best players having a good game at the same time. Yeah, that's something that we talked about on the show, and I think people are starting to talk about that a little more on social media and on the radio and on national TV. Tatum and Brown, can they coexist? Can they both play well at the same game? Celtics fans get very, very angry and defensive when you bring that up, but I can't remember the last time both of those guys had a really good game in the same game. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to. I know they play similar position, but they're both good enough shooters and good enough drivers, and Tatum's a good enough passer. Brown's not a very good passer to the point where they should both be able to score, without getting in the other's way, and yet that never seems to happen. Last year, you said the biggest problem was depth, in your opinion. This year, the biggest problem is they seem to think there's only 3 quarters. Some games they think there's only 2 quarters. It's certainly coaching has been an issue this year because they have not been able to the new coaching staff has not been able to instill any sort of consistency with this team, or accountability. And the players all obviously deserve the biggest part of the blame because they're the ones that get paid to take the court, and they haven't gotten things done. Would you trade Jalen for Dame Lillard? Hitman's asking me. Leonard, you said you would. At the beginning of the year, I was 100% opposed to that. At this point, even though Lillard's older and having a down year, I kind of do it. I do it, and I'm going to tell you why. I think you need some shakeup to get this team to a higher level. Maybe it backfires and you take a step back, but I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think the worst thing you could do is continue at this pace and try to fool yourself into being something you're not. I'd like to see them take a swing. I know, again, Lillard's older. He's not having as good of a year as usual, but maybe the fact that he's a point guard and can spread the ball a little bit more than Brown, maybe that will enable Tatum to play better. Maybe those two guys can have big games in the same night. Maybe a change of scenery would make Lillard play a little bit better too. Certainly, I think Portland would do that trade. Again, I'm not opposed to risking taking a step backwards at this point because the only thing I don't want is for the team to continue on what they've been doing and to keep deluding themselves of thinking that the core of Brown and Tatum is the way to go. Obviously, the primary option would be adding a third star. Everybody says that. I agree. But how the hell are you going to do that? You don't have a lot of valuable assets. You have all your own picks. They're very mediocre. You haven't developed any young talent. So those, guys like Pritchard and Nesmith and Langford and Grant Williams, I don't think any of those guys are particularly enticing to other teams. And Rob Williams and Marcus Smart, I don't think those guys are good enough to get it done for a star level player. So how do you get that third star here? Why would a guy choose to come here in free agency too is a significant question as well when you're seeing all the troubles that the team's been going through the past couple of years. So, obviously I'd prefer keep Brown and Tatum at a third star. That would be the best option. But since I don't think that's realistic, I would trade Jalen for Damian Lillard. Thanks for the question, Hitman. What else are you guys saying in the chat here? It was last year towards the end of the year against the Heat, and the Celtics still lost because nobody else could score. Leonard, you're saying a Jalen Schroeder package would be nice. Might as well get rid of Schroeder since he's got high trade value. No way he's staying in Boston next season. Yeah, that's true. I think Dennis Schroeder is extremely likely to get traded. He's just on a 1-year contract. He's not getting paid much. He can contribute to a team that's looking to make a deeper run in the postseason. The Celtics obviously aren't. So I'd say, take what you can get for Schroeder. Preferably if you could throw him in for a package for a bigger player, like you adding him and he's a sweetener with Brown and you can get a really good player in return. And that's what it takes extra. Okay. If you could just trade Schroeder and get some picks, I'm fine with that too. As long as they're, not psycho protected picks, or any sort of guy who's, I trade Schroeder for a guy who's a shooting specialist. I think that would be a worthy trade too. Getting Schroeder for a guy who's maybe not quite as good of a player, but fills a role the Celtics need more, which is a 3-point shooter. I would certainly do that as well. My guy Marv, I see you. I see you in the chat too. Everyone must go. Building 19, absolute fire sale. I agree with you, Marv. Just it's a disaster. It's a disaster. And I seriously, like I said in my tweet for this show, I question the sanity of anybody who's still watching this team. So I obviously chief suspect among them is me, who's watched every game. I'm certifiable. I mean, I must be insane. There's no good reason to watch all these games. It's not good for my mental or physical health, and yet I keep doing it to myself. This could be my supervillain origin story, is watching the 2021-2022 Boston Celtics. It could be what just causes me to snap and become, the next Joker or something like that. This team could very well, if it doesn't push me over the edge, it can push somebody else over the edge, and they will try to take over the world. And the Celtics will be responsible for that. So I think, let's go check in the box score here. Again, I'm so happy the chat's super active today because everybody's so frustrated. Trade Schroeder for the Hawks for Gallinari. Hitman Hudson, I like that idea. I don't believe the money works because I think Gallinari is getting paid something insane. But the concept of trading Schroeder for a shooter is something I like. Leonard, honestly, the worst part is that due to the expanded playoff system, the Celtics could end up squeaking in the playoff tournament just like last year. It's the exact same thing. So yeah, they could, and then they won't get a lottery pick, and we'll just continue to suffer. Marv, you took a week off in Orlando. It was your first game back. So, Orlando, you're like, okay, the Celtics didn't look great here, but Jaylen Brown had 50. That's awesome. And so it's like a little bit of false hope. Granted, Orlando's terrible. And then they just do this to you tonight. There's just, they seriously treat their fans like garbage, the Celtics, in terms of like bringing them in. Oh, they beat the Suns. Wait a minute. Are they turning things around? No. Don't fall for it. Never fall for it. All right, let's get in the box score and then get the heck out of here so we can not have to talk about the Celtics until their next unfortunate game. Again, the final score 99-97. The Celtics lose, fall to 18-20. The Spurs improve to 15-22. The Celtics are 11-8 at home. Spurs 8-12 away from San Antonio. Starters tonight were the same starters on opening night. It's been the first time in a while that's happened. Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Rob Williams, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Coach Udoka said before the game this is his ideal starting lineup. So Celtics had their ideal starting lineup and still lost to a bad Spurs team. Tatum, 38 minutes in his return, 6 of 20 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 19 points. Another not very impressive shooting night from Tatum. And you'd like to see more scoring. I know he's been out for a little while, but we really would love to see him and Brown both have 25-point plus games in the same night. It seems like that's never happened before. It rarely happens. Al Horford, not a very good game in his return. 27 minutes, 2 of 7 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, and just 4 points for Al. Rob Williams, also not a particularly strong game from him. The Bigs were outplayed in this game. Jakob Poeltl did a good job controlling the boards, as he's a very under the radar solid player for San Antonio. Rob Williams, 32 minutes, 3 of 5 from the floor, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, steal, 2 blocks, and 6 points total for Rob. Marcus Smart, I think he played a pretty damn good game tonight, especially down the stretch. He was making some big defensive plays, but it didn't amount to a win. 33 minutes, 6 of 12 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, a block, 14 points. Did a little bit of everything. Solid game for Marcus Smart. And Jaylen Brown kept up the scoring load, 35 minutes, 12 of 25 from the floor, hit 4 of 8 from 3, 6 rebounds, and assists, 2 steals, a block, and 30 points coming after his 50-point performance the other night in Orlando. As far as the bench goes, 4 guys played on the bench. Grant Williams, 22 minutes, 1 of 2 from the floor, 2 points. Not a good game from Grant. Dennis Schroeder was fine in his 26 minutes, 7 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3, though, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 15 points. Josh Richardson, 21 minutes, 3 of 5 from the floor, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 3 steals. And Romeo Langford, only 8 minutes for him, as he goes scoreless and doesn't attempt a shot, just records a foul, a block, and a rebound in the stat sheet. And again, the Celtics lose 97-99. As far as the rebounding battle went, San Antonio won that 48-41. Total turnovers, the Celtics turned the ball over just 8 times, not bad at all. San Antonio turned it over a whopping 17 times, and the Celtics still lost. That shows you how poorly the rest of the game went for Boston. And the Celtics just continue to disappoint and be that team that derives sexual pleasure out of torturing their fans and torturing themselves. The next game is tomorrow. Oh, God, unfortunately, against the Knicks. That's a nationally televised game on TNT. It is in Madison Square Garden. I believe the Celtics have split with the Knicks this year, so we'll see who takes the series lead in this one. Knicks, and the Celtics sort of bunched up in the records. Always nice to beat New York. Let's see if the Celtics can get it done and try to creep back towards 500. But at this point, all I'm looking forward to is the trade deadline and seeing if the Celtics can actually do something. I'm sure you guys agree there. I appreciate you all in the chats. Hitman Hudson says I should do recaps for other Boston sports teams. Maybe I'd be having more fun. It would be hard to have less fun doing recaps for any team. So maybe I should do Patriots ones. I used to do Patriots ones all the time when I was doing radio. I did the post games for the Patriots. Maybe I should just go back to doing that. I should do it with my buddy Mike Molino and Marv. I know they do a lot of stuff. By the way, check out Marv's channel, Double M Media. It's really good on YouTube. I've been on there a couple times. Great show, really fun. Lots of good stuff to talk about, not just sports, but Marvel, DC. Well, actually, Marvel, I don't think you're much of a DC guy, but comic book stuff, entertainment stuff, music. It's really fun. So check that out. I appreciate you all for listening. I appreciate you all in the chat. Thanks to Hitman Hudson, Leonard Kim, Marv. I appreciate you guys all. And I will talk to you tomorrow for what will be another really painful Celtics game, inevitably. See you, everybody.